The objective of this video is to learn how to express powers in different forms, specifically exponents that are negative or zero. Now, the law of exponents, one of the laws of exponents says that any non-zero number to the zero power is equal to 1. For example, 8 to the 0 power is 1. 1 billion to the 0 power is 1. Anything to the 0 power is going to be 1. Now, algebraically, that's written as x to the 0 power is equal to 1, with this other side note here that says x is not equal to 0. Because when you plug in 0 here, 0 to the 0 power, that's another story, which we're going to get to in a moment here. Now, a lot of people have trouble grasping this concept that anything to the 0 power can be 1. Everyone seems to think that it should be 0. Let's take a look and see why it's 1. Looking back here, we're looking at powers of 10. 10 cubed is 10 times 10 times 10, which is 1,000. 10 squared is 100. To get from here to here, I am dividing by 10. To get from 1,001, I'm dividing by 10. 10 squared to 10 to the 1, going this way, I would be again dividing by 10. Every exponent that I go down, I'm ending up dividing by that number. Makes sense. Every exponent I go up, I multiply by another one, so going down, I'm dividing by it. 10 to the 1 is 10. Going down one more from there, I would divide 10 divided by 10, which is equal to 1. So 10 to the 0 power is 1. Then when I go 10 to the negative 1, I'm going to be dividing that by 10 again. And 1 divided by 10, 1 divided by 10 is 1 over 10, 1/10, or 0.1. Which leads us into the negative exponents. When we're talking about negative exponents, let's see what happens with those. Well, the law, the exponent law for negative exponents is any non-zero numbers with a negative exponent, n, is the multiplicative inverse of its nth power. Well, 8 to the negative 3. What the multiplicative inverse of 8 is 1 over 8. That kind of makes sense. When we were just talking about the powers of 10, we're talking about we had to divide by 10 for the next step down. Going down from the 8 to the 0 power, which would be 1, you would have to divide by 8. Then divide by 8 again. Divide by 8 again. This works out to be 1 over 8 to the positive 3, because 8 times 8 times 8 gives you 8 cubed. Notice how 8 to the negative 3 became 8 to the positive 3 on the bottom of that fraction. So x to a negative a, algebraically, would be 1 over x to the positive a, where an x is not equal to 0. If x was equal to 0, you'd be dividing by 0. And you can't do that. That is undefined. What kind of questions can be asked involving negative exponents and zero exponents? Well, there's a whole lot, but you might be asked to write using positive exponents. You're given negative exponents, you're asked to write using positive exponents. You could be asked to write using negative exponents, giving something with a fraction in it. You could be asked to evaluate, or you could be asked to simplify and express using exponents. When you're asked to simplify and express using exponents, it's understood. They're not going to state it specifically, but it's understood that you should have no negative exponents in your simplified answer. A simplified answer does not contain negative exponents. So let's take a look at these types. Here, write using a positive exponent. I'm given 9 to the negative 3, and I need to write that using a positive exponent. Well, we just said that putting it on the bottom of a fraction makes it positive. So 9 to the negative 3 would be the same as 9 to the positive 3 on the bottom of that fraction. These two are equal. This will be writing this using positive exponents. Over here, to write this with positive exponents, we put it underneath 1. Again, it'd be x to the positive 5. Here we're asked to write using negative exponents. Well, if this is a positive 3 on the bottom, and I wanted to move it to the top, moving it to the top would make it negative. 9 to the third on the bottom is negative, 9 to the negative 3 on the top. So this would be 5 to the negative 3. This would be x to the negative 8. So you could be asked to go in either direction with that. You could be asked to evaluate. When you're asked to evaluate, you have to take it a step further. First, you start off by making the fraction on this one. 5 to the negative 3 would be 5 to the positive 3 on the bottom here. 5 to the positive 3 is 5 times 5 times 5, which is going to give you 125. Now, that would be acceptable as an answer, or you could go the step further and do 1 divided by 125 and get the decimal. It all depends on what's being specifically asked in the question. If they just say evaluate, you should be able to leave the fraction. I'm going to be looking for fractions. 10 to the negative 5 would be 1 over 10 to the positive 5, which would be equal to 1 over 1 with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. 1 over 100,000. Negative 3 to the negative 4 would be 1 over negative 3 to the positive 4 exponent. An even exponent on a negative number, we know the answer is going to turn out to be positive. So we know we're going to have a 1 over a positive number. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 again gives you 27, times the fourth 3 gives you 81. So that's your final answer on that one. Here we have 86 to the 0. I know we were talking about negative exponents, but we did talk about 0 exponents too. 86 to the 0 is just going to be equal to 1. Kind of threw that in as a little trick there. All right. Express using exponents. Simplify and express using exponents. Here's where I said where it's understood you should have no negative exponents. So this would just be, like we did before, moving it to the bottom to have a positive exponent on the 5. Here, we have a negative exponent on the bottom. When you have a negative exponent on the bottom, remember, to make it a positive, we will put it as a fraction form. So it become a positive 2 on the bottom of a fraction there. But you never divide by a fraction. You can't have 1 divided by 1 over divided by 4. Why? That's weird. You've got to multiply by the reciprocal. So this becomes 1 times y squared over 1. Which, with all those 1s, actually ends up being just plain y squared. A negative exponent at the bottom, when moved to the top, becomes positive. So let's use that down here. We want to simplify this. Well, actually, we've got like bases being divided. When like bases are being divided, we subtract the exponents. So this becomes, well, 2 squared. We have to work that out. That would be 4 times x to the 2 minus a negative 3. Minus the negative 3 becomes plus. So you end up having 4x to the 5th power as your answer on that one. Subtracting a negative 3 becomes plus 3. You get 4x to the 5th power. Now over here, we have times. When you have times of the bases, you are going to add the exponents. So this becomes a to the negative 3 plus 8. Negative 3 plus 8 gives you a to the 5th power. And yes, you are going to have to work with negative exponents and the multiplying and dividing rules there. All right, you do. I want you to pause the video, try these 4 problems, and start up again. Welcome back. 9 to the 7th becomes 1 over 9 to the positive 7, instead of 9 to the negative 7. this becomes, well, we're asked to write using positive exponents, so we can leave the exponent on the 9 here, or the 8 here, but we're going to make it positive by moving it to the bottom, so it's a positive 8, positive squared. And the x also moves to the bottom and becomes positive. That leaves a 1 on the top. Here we're asked to write using negative exponents. So this is going to be equal to, well, making this negative would have to be moving it to the top. So it would be negative 5 to the negative 8 power. Here, we have a positive 7 on the bottom. It becomes a negative 7 on the top. There's our final answers there, and there. A couple more you-dos. Pause the video, give these a try. Welcome back. Simplify, we have negative 2 to the negative 3 power. That's going to be 1 over negative 2 to the positive 3 power. A negative number to an odd number exponent means the answer is going to be negative. So we know we're going to have a negative 1 over something. 2 cubed is 2 times 2 times 2, which gives us 8. So we have negative 1/8 for the answer on number 5. On number 6, we're going to have 1 over 4 to the positive 2. 4 squared is 16, so we get 1 over 16. Remember, I am working these out to actual standard forms because when you have just numbers, the numbers should be worked out completely. Variables are left with exponents. All right, here we have x to the negative. Well, we know we're going to have a fraction because we have some negative exponents, we have some positive exponents. X to the 4 goes to the bottom of the fraction. Y squared stays on the top because it's a positive exponent to begin with, so it stays there. Z to the negative 1 becomes z to the positive 1 on the bottom. Do I have to keep that 1 there? No, I could write it without the 1. Either way, it's okay. There's your answer. Now on this one, I do have a 12, so I'm going to have to simplify that to a number there. But first, I have to remember I'm going to be making a fraction. The 12 is going to move to the bottom in order to get that exponent positive. The x is going to have to move to the bottom to become positive. The y is negative on the bottom, so it moves to the top to become positive. The z cubed is positive on the bottom. It stays where it is. It doesn't need to move to change the sign. It stays down here. We would have to work out 12 squared. 12 squared is 144. So this would be your final answer on that one. See you in class.